The food nerfs in Terraria might finally be over, and that's because 1.4.5 might have solved Terraria's food problem. And what was Terraria's food problem? Pumpkin pie and bacon. Those two options were way too good for how easy they were to get. But with both of those options getting nerfed in 1.4.5, is there any other food left to nerf? First, let's get an understanding of why food even matters in Terraria to begin with. Food provides buffs and a couple of different stats, like damage, crit chance, movement, and mining speed. There are also 3 different tiers of buffs, with the higher tiers providing stronger stat buffs. Since food affects so many core stats, it's not the worst idea to have a buff up whenever you can. Now when it came to pumpkin pie and bacon, their buffs were too strong for how accessible they were. With most other food options, you normally need to put in some degree of effort to get them. For instance, let's look at fruits. You're running around shaking trees all for a once per day chance at a drop, and it only gives you the well-fed buff in return. Or we can look at something more complex like the bowl of soup. It gives a stronger buff, but you need to collect mushrooms and goldfish to craft it. And then you have a lot of other food options that are locked behind combat, like chicken nuggets or milkshakes. The ones that require combat usually give the plenty satisfied or exquisitely stuffed buff, however the drop rates are extremely low. So most of the stronger food options require you to engage with something, whether it be farming materials, grinding enemies, or dealing with RNG, which would naturally limit how consistent an option is. Now let's compare all of that to bacon. Bacon gives you the exquisitely stuffed buff for 24 minutes. Since it gives you the best food buff for such a long time, that means it surely takes some effort to get, right? Normally, you have to fight Pigrons, which are hard mode enemies found in those hybrid snow and hollow or world evil biomes. And they have an almost demonically low drop rate, which means you need to set up a farm or else you'll be randomly roaming until you find one. To me, that feels appropriate for a strong buff with such a long duration. Now let's look at how people actually got bacon before 1.4.5. Yep, that's all it took. Just buying pigranadas from the party girl during a party, which you can also manually start with the party center. Then breaking them open, keeping the money and bacon, and then selling everything else. Rinse and repeat for a few minutes and your inventory would normally look like this.
Woo-wee! Bacon, bacon.
Admittedly, you may not always get the party girl to show up when you want, given her requirements, but I've had plenty of playthroughs before 1.4.5 where she spawns before I get to hard mode. As for pumpkin pie, while it only gave you the plenty satisfied buff for 8 minutes, it was even more accessible and consistent than bacon. You just needed to kill one of the early bosses, then wait for the dryad to show up, and then buy pumpkin seeds, plant them, wait for them to grow, and that was pretty much it. Compared to most other food options, pumpkin pie and bacon just broke the rules. There was no friction in managing them because you were able to farm them in such large quantities. Pumpkin pie gave you near permanent access to a mid-tier buff way too early into the game, and bacon pretty much did the same thing with an even stronger buff that should have felt like a luxury. You didn't need some over-engineered mob farm, and if you were lucky, you barely needed to progress through the game. To get access to some of the best food buffs in the game, all you had to do was this. All things considered, it's not too surprising that they both got nerfed. 1.4.5 removed bacon from pigranadas and made pumpkin pies not only cost more to craft, but also provide the well-fed buff now instead. So with those options gone, what's left if you're like me and you just want the best food buffs with the least amount of work possible? Well, remember when I said that Terraria's food problem might be solved? This is what I meant, because I don't think there are any food options left that are as abusable as what we once had. When it comes to plenty satisfied, fishing is probably the way to go. There's so many options that lead back to plenty satisfied, even seafood dinner is a decent choice despite its nerfs a while back. Outside of fishing, I like monster lasagna, I find it easy to farm in Crimson, especially in pre-hard mode since more enemies drop Vertebra compared to pre-hard mode enemies in Corruption that drop Rotten Chunks. What about Exquisitely Stuffed? At this point, it's more of a luxury buff that you're not going to see much in pre-hard mode. Of course there are options available in pre-hard mode, but they rely heavily on luck or low drop rates from combat. There are more sources available in hard mode with somewhat better drop rates, but they're still overall pretty low and they'll never compare to the consistency and accessibility of bacon from Pegranatus. With pumpkin pie and bacon out of the picture, the other food options feel like they have the right amount of effort required or luck to not get nerfed. But you never truly know when it comes to Terraria and their desire to nerf the most random things for almost no reason. So, do you think 1.4.5 was the last major nerf to food? Is the Exquisitely Stuffed buff in a good spot now? Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments and don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos to come.